Here's a fun fact that you guys might not know about me. I still, to this day, do not personally own a 1911. So let's talk about that on Sunday GUNDAY. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things, and before any of the keyboard commandos go hard in the comments about that opening statement, let me explain. If you follow my channel closely, you will know that I've been into guns for a long time, and I slowly build my collection based off of things that I am interested in at the time. There was actually a time where I really liked XDs and I hated Glocks, but just like all personal preferences, things change over time. Now, one of my main reasons for never buying a 1911 is simply because I typically like things that are a little bit over the top. I've shot plenty of 1911s, from fairly standard Springfields and Colts, all the way up to custom Wilson Combats and Nighthawks that cost more than some cars. My problem is that I never came across a 1911 that fits all of my tastes while still remaining in a reasonable budget. Today, however, I found a gun that might be the closest fit for me personally, so now we're going to find out by taking a look at the Rock Island Armory TAC Ultra. Right from the start, the Rock Island TAC Ultra offers a lot of nice features at an affordable price point. This is a mid-sized 1911 with a 4 1/4 inch barrel coming with 10 round single stack magazines, and it is chambered in 9mm. On top are snag-free combat style sights with a red fiber optic front post and an adjustable 2-dot rear. Both the hammer and adjustable trigger are skeletonized, making this gun look and feel a little more premium. The beaver tail is extended and the safety is ambidextrous, making engagement and disengagement even easier. The entire gun comes in a fully Parkerized finish, and it is matched with some very nice feeling VZ tactical grips, which are of course replaceable, but I'm already a fan of them both aesthetically and functionally. This tactical model gives you almost everything that you want in a 1911 at right around the $700 mark, plus the backing of the Rock Island lifetime warranty. So this gun already seems to be very promising, just judging a book by its cover. There are a lot of nice features that I would definitely love to have in a 1911, but I don't think that I could actually pull the trigger on buying this until I went out and shot it. I did take this out to test last week and put some rounds down range, so let's take a look at some of that footage and I will come back for my first mag impression. Alright guys, back for my first mag impression. I typically start from the top down, but let's start from the bottom up this time. The first feature that I found to be fairly nice was this flared magwell in the bottom. They are only 10 round magazines, so if you're using this for like a competition style gun or even a self-defense style roll, chances are you're probably going to have to reload, and there is no problem at all slamming a mag home. If you can get comfortable with reloading single stack magazines like this, then double stack magazines should come even easier. Now, moving on up the frame, let's talk about just the ergonomics in general. I do really like these VZ grips. It has some pretty crazy texturing on there, and these things would probably retail for about like $70 or $75 if you were to buy them aftermarket. So that is a nice touch that they throw those in with this package. There's really not a whole lot of grip on the front of the gun. There is some knurling in the back, and then you will also see this big enlarged beaver tail. I of course am a fan of the 1911 grip style. I like when polymer guns kind of replicate this sort of feeling in the hand. The point of aim is very natural for me because it is an all steel gun. It is obviously very weighty and heavy too, so the recoil impulse is actually pretty smooth. Since it is chambered in 9mm, this thing is a fairly soft shooter, and I can definitely be very accurate with it. One thing that might concern me about these grips is that if you ever were to carry this with those grips up against your skin, I have carried some pretty aggressive textured guns in the past, like my M&P 2.0. This, however, is way more aggressive even than that, and if this thing was rubbing up against your stomach all day, I definitely think that that could kind of chew up your skin a little bit. I do like the beaver tail on this gun, both aesthetically and functionally. Obviously, if I don't have that depressed, there's no way that this gun is going to go off. Typically, you would have the safety on when you are reholstering, but for some reason, if you do not and you just have your hand over the back of the hammer here, not actually pressing into the beaver tail, that would be another safe way to reholster a gun like this, because if anything were to get snagged on that trigger, there's no way that is going to go off without pressing on the beaver tail. Now, also speaking about the safety, it's kind of hit or miss. I'm really not a big fan of external safeties like this, but For a hammer-fired 1911, it's kind of necessary. I definitely got used to hitting it off and on when holstering and reholstering. Right-handed manipulation is fine, I can do it fairly easy. I thought that maybe when disengaged, the ambidextrous side on the right side of the gun here would kind of get in the way of my shooting hand. But with the way that I grip the gun and everything, it kind of rides right along the top of that finger bone there, but it doesn't protrude, it's not stabbing me, and it seems to work okay. In my left hand, I can still hit the safety off and on. It is a little funny for me because, as you guys know, I am right-handed. Typically, I would not care for ambidextrous stuff like that, but it does make the gun look even when you're looking at it, so that's kind of my OCD kicking in here and saying that it looks good aesthetically speaking. So the safety is ambidextrous, but nothing else is. So you have the mag release here and the slide stop lever. The mag release feels pretty good. I think the spring is a little bit stiff in there. I'm not sure if it needs to be cleaned or just broken in a little bit more, but the mags fall out of there fairly easy. And if you're doing reloads, the slide locks back and you go to push in a new magazine. I don't want to slam this thing on an empty chamber, but if I come up here with my thumb, I can definitely let that slide drop without an issue. Reaching all of the controls are fine as well. I could definitely run this gun one-handed if I needed to. There is some nice knurling on both of these, so traction is good. Really no complaints there. Since this is the tactical model, up front you will see this really nice size rail up here. You can put any kind of light or laser that you want on there. Let me throw something on for some visuals. Maybe you want to go with something super durable and tactical like the Surefire X300. Super aggressive light, like I said, very durable, but maybe you don't want to spend that much money. You could opt for something a little bit cheaper like the Olight PL2 Valkyrie. Again, another pretty decent light, especially given the price point. The rail on here is very, very secure, and pretty much any big size light that you put on here, I'm a fan of. Or maybe you want to go with something even smaller like the Olight PL Mini. This one definitely doesn't look as good to me, but maybe you have one of these for a smaller polymer framed handgun lying around. The controls are still very easy to access, and although aesthetically speaking it doesn't look that great, it still works. So having a rail like this, that size, that is a big plus for me. If I ever were to buy a 1911, that is definitely something that I would like to see. Now let's move up to the slide with the serrations. Unfortunately, there is nothing in the front here. You can definitely still get a handle on it, but if your hands are sweaty or muddy, water, blood, whatever you have on you, that's definitely gonna get slick after a while. However, the serrations in the rear are definitely very functional. I would like to see them maybe protrude up a little bit more, closer towards the chamber of the gun. It would also be very cool if Rock Island just took these serrations and put some more of them on the front of the slide. I think that would make this gun even better than it already is. If I were to buy this gun or a gun like this, that is definitely something that I would want to have, and that can be put on after the fact as well. If I were to buy this gun or a gun like it, I would definitely want front serrations on there, and that's also something that I could add to a gun like this. And then moving up to the top of the sights, I definitely dig the red fiber optic front post on here. The rear sights, they're not bad. They are of course all metal and the rear is adjustable. There are 2 white dots on here and they're just painted white, so not a huge fan of that, but I guess I could technically black that out if I wanted to. Ideally, since the front is a red fiber optic, I would like to see a black serrated rear all blacked out, but then again, they work and they function well. While we're up in the front here, you guys should also take a look at that barrel. It's almost like a mini bull barrel, super thick. A lot of the weight of this gun is definitely coming from that big barrel, and I think it looks cool and it definitely keeps the gun shooting fairly straight, and it feels very balanced in my hand because of that as well. Now, 1 mag is definitely not enough for me to make a decision on whether I would buy this gun or not. So let's get back to the shooting and then I will come back with my final thoughts. This thing's nice. Keep riding the slide stop. Alright guys, back for my final thoughts on the TAC Ultra. The only thing I really haven't covered yet is the trigger, so let's talk about that. As you would expect with a 1911 trigger like this, it is skeletonized, it is adjustable, and it feels pretty damn good, especially given the price point. It's pretty smooth on the pre-travel. There really isn't a whole lot of it until you find the wall. And then once you're on top of that wall, there's probably like a 4.5 to 5 pound pull. And you get a nice, pretty crisp and clean break. I'm not gonna say very crisp and clean because I have definitely shot a lot of very awesome 1911 triggers in the past, but it definitely holds its own, especially given the price point. And now for the reset, I'll slowly let out. You really don't have to let out a whole lot. Definitely tactile and audible, and then you're sitting right on top of that wall for another break. Now I have not messed around with adjusting this trigger. You can see a little set screw on the inside here where that is done. Where it's at right now, I'm pretty comfortable with it. Apparently you can adjust it between a 4 and 6 pound pull. Right now to me it feels like it's right in that middle sweet spot there, so I would pretty much just leave this how it is. Now let's talk about uses for this gun, what I think the gun would be best used for, and again, like most of my videos, this is all just personal preference. I think a 1911 just like this would be great for a range gun. This is definitely a great shooting gun. It is chambered in 9mm, so you're not going to be spending a ton of money on some bigger calibers. Magazines for guns like this can be fairly expensive. However, the ones that I'm running, especially in this video, these are some fairly cheap Metgar mags, and I did not have any functionality issues with them at all. A lot of times if you get aftermarket magazines for guns, sometimes you'll have failure to feeds and just kind of weird issues, and the gun may not function the way it should. Comparing these to the magazines that it came with, I really could not tell a difference. I think this gun could also fit into a home defense role if you really wanted to do that. Like you saw with the rail, you can mount up some pretty serious light, so if I were to own this gun, I would probably keep the Surefire X300 on here. Keep in mind though that the gun is fairly heavy and they are only 10 round magazines, so there are definitely some other options out there that might suit your needs better. So would I carry this thing? For some of those reasons that I already talked about, no, I don't think I would actually run this thing in a holster while I'm going about my day. I could technically keep it in a QVO standard holster like this on the outside of my waistband and just throw a hoodie or maybe even my t-shirt over it and conceal it pretty decently. But then again, this gun is fairly heavy and you only get 10 rounds, so I would much rather pick a polymer framed handgun and something that is double stack holding much more rounds than just 10. Now, what are some things that I would change on this gun? There really isn't a whole lot that you haven't heard me say already. I would definitely like to see some front serrations on there. That could probably be done aftermarket fairly cheap. The sights are something that I might change, like I said, a black serrated rear, but these work just fine as well. Maybe if you were going the extreme route of already milling some serrations in the front of the slide, you could also put a cut for an RMR on the back here. Since it is a tactical gun, I think an RMR would actually look pretty damn good on top of here, look right at home. Other than that though, I do like the grips, the gun feels good in my hand, and I really don't think that I would change anything else. So if you're in the market for a 1911 around the $700 mark, would I recommend this gun? Yeah, I definitely think I would. The gun looks good, it performed and functioned well. The only problem is that this exact model can no longer be found. Rock Island does make a ton of different variants of all of their 1911s, so you still could find something fairly similar to this around the same price point as well. I do believe that their price point is justified, and maybe you could even find it in an aftermarket sale for even cheaper than the MSRP was. So now, would I actually buy this exact gun? I'm still kind of on the fence. There's really no definitive yes or no answer to this. I personally don't need a 1911 right now. Of course, I would like to have one in my collection someday. But I think instead of buying something at a reasonable price point where I would go and switch a lot of stuff out anyway, I will probably end up saving my money for a longer period of time and then just get something that has everything that I want right from the factory. I know there are a ton of other good options out there that would compete with a gun just like this, but there's definitely one 1911 and even a 2011 that I have my eyes set on, so maybe in the future, once I save up enough, I will pick some of those up and show you guys here on Sunday Gunday. But until then, I think I'm going to hold off on picking up a gun like this. So that's about it, all of my thoughts on the Rock Island TAC Ultra. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below and let me know what you think about this gun if you've ever shot one in the past. Now, if you are new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week, and that's going to be all for today. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.